This is the very first edition of Chainlink Sports. Thank you all for watching this one. Much appreciated. And this is an episode I wanted to be first because there's two very smart individuals, smart coaches, and they specialize in very specific regions of coaching. They do specify with baseball, but it's not just about hitting, pitching, fielding. These guys really dive into the mental side of the sport psychologically. So these guys are very knowledgeable in their respective fields. So let's get right into it. John Hodson, he is the mental skills coach for Wagner College Athletics, and he works with college players, pro players, high school players on all levels, and in different sports as well. So John is very knowledgeable. And then Gary Trottier. Trot is the pitching coach over at Becker College, and he's the director of mental performance at GLG Athletic Performance. So our topic today is mental skills and preparation, and specifically for athletes moving up, from high school to college to pro, and what it takes on the mental side and how to perform. And these guys, they definitely know their stuff. So we're going to jump right into questions. So, Hodson, we're going to start with you. So you worked with me a lot in high school and, my teammates and just a whole bunch of high school kids. So in general, when you work with high school athletes, what's the biggest skill that you notice that high school athletes lack heading into college, and what's the main skill that they should master to be successful at the college level?
Sure. Nico, thanks for having me on tonight. I would say that, in my experience, working with the younger guys, moving up to the minor league pro guys and even the college guys, there's like one central theme and observation that I've had over the years. And it's really just having that basic framework of understanding how to create self-awareness in an athlete. I think that's the foundation because, if you think about what mental skills is all about, it's really all about, optimizing your physical performance. And as you know, as we've talked about it, Nico, a physical performance is an outcome of a thought, right? So if you think about that, and if you want to optimize your performance, the next level to get to an elite athlete status is really understanding how to regulate the brain and how to regulate your thoughts and mind. So the biggest thing that I've always talked about with athletes and I'm working with, for the first time is just understanding and having an appreciation to build self-awareness. Because if you can build self-awareness, then you could tap into the toolkit, as I call it, as we've talked about. Yep. Things like positive self-talk, breathing, visualization, meditation, mindfulness, and the like. So the biggest thing that they can start off with is understanding how to build self-awareness. And there's lots of exercises to do that. Things like understanding your why, building your why up, and sort of why you do what you do. And then from there, it's just a natural progression to things that they can work on. Everything from setting goals, understanding their routines, and all those little exercises really help build this notion of self-awareness, which leads to self-advocacy in their own athletic career, and they can really build a strong foundation for them to jump off with. So I would start with just understanding self-awareness as a strong foundation for mental skills.
Awesome. Yeah, no, you've definitely hammered that, with me and the guys that you've worked with, and it's definitely very valuable information, heading from level to level and going up with better competition, which is more advanced play. So Trot, you so actually a lot of stuff that Hodson has said, you have said a lot to me and my teammates over at school. But you also talk about breathing and how important it is to breathe and different exercises. And even when we stretch as a team, we do a lot of breathing exercises. And I just want you to go into how does this benefit pitchers and hitters alike just on different sides of the ball?
Okay, yeah. So I guess for breathing, the reason I find the importance of it is it's applicable to both life and baseball. And you have to think in the idea that the only thing we have in the present is the present moment. So what can we do to make the most out of that? So the short answer to your question is, why is breathing good for baseball and just any sports in general? It allows for your brain to concentrate on one thing at that time, right? So in that moment, if you're counting your breaths, if you're just relaxed, you're not thinking about what you have to do with your swing, because we collect all these cues over the course of the off season and the fall and even your past. And it's pretty easy to kind of fall into that in that moment, right? We have to think all the training we're doing, all the physical preparation we do, all the practices, it's all for that one specific moment. It's that moment of truth. It's that ground ball hit to you. It's that at bat. You're training for that specific moment and how well you can be prepared for that. So for breathing, when you're in that moment, you can count your breaths and you can control it. You're going to have better, you're going to have less muscle tension, right? So a lot of us breathe in our shoulders. And I was watching the ALCS a couple years ago in the reliever for the Red Sox. What was it, Brazier? Is that his last name?
You're the Sox fan, man. I'm the one wearing the Mets hat over here. You got to tell me.
Yeah. He had an Amish beard. I forgot his name.
Right.
And I'm watching him breathing. It's all here. It's all here. It's all here. And that's just going to keep the tension in your shoulders, right? You got to think of what's the purpose of baseball. It's the ritual, the breathing in baseball, right? We all step into the box. We look at our barrel. We all have our own routine.
Yep.
And then we take that big breath. Now, why do we take that breath? We take that breath because maybe we feel a little bit tight up here, right? So you can't think, though, that this is where you're feeling tension, that's where you breathe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in the course of the game, you're going to go through your ups and downs. If you can maintain your breath and you can maintain to be present, you're giving yourself the best chance to succeed. It's pretty easy to get caught up in all the cues that we go over, and I think most guys get in their own heads, and it's a shame because their body, if you eliminate that the strain that the brain has, it really squeezes our body. It's like a python squeezing us. If you can remove that snake, you're allowing for the body to manifest how it can truly react, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you see a glass of water falling off, right? You're falling off the cliff. If you were waiting for that, you might tense up. But if you're just reacting, you're like a cat. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're just purely reacting. You didn't try and do anything. You were just trying to be. You were just trying to do.
Absolutely.
So that's what the breathing helps you do. It allows you to think more clearly. And then that's the benefits. But I try not thinking about it in the sports realm. Like we're trying to create better people, and what we're trying to teach goes outside of sport. And if you could learn how to breathe in a job interview, if you could learn how to breathe in a presentation, if you could learn to breathe on a first date or just an important question to ask or just anything, then you're setting yourself up for success outside of just baseball.
Yep.
That's why I like to teach the breathing.
Absolutely. So
yeah,
that was great. So Hodson, back to you. So you were working a lot with Wagner Athletics this year.
Yep.
With a whole bunch of sports. And so I just want to know what that experience was like for you. And then if you took anything new away from that in terms of teaching mental skills, because just based on all the programs you worked with, if anything you picked up new and how to translate the way you teach into your athletes, like anything new that you learned.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good question. So I started at Wagner, as you know, this year and this past fall, and working with, it's a Division I program, the NAC conference, covering about 20 plus sports there, everything from water polo to golf to football to basketball to baseball, you name it, field hockey. And, the biggest thing that I've learned, because I've had to really understand the environment that I've been in. So for me, it was just about learning how to adapt my approaches to the different sports, the different schedules, because, working with individual athletes mainly before going to Wagner, I was able to kind of keep my schedule a bit more organized. So for me, just from a scheduling perspective, the challenge for me was just having to really build a rhythm and a cadence with the teams, just so keep myself organized first and foremost. But I think, in terms of the mental skill side, I just think it was just interesting that having to deal with a lot of things that were maybe outside of the sport. That was a new experience for me. So a lot of the things that I've been working with teams and athletes and coaches and just the athletic department in general had to do with, It's not just stuff that's happening in game or in practice. I've had to really work on working with the whole person a lot more than what I had in the past. So if anything, I just had to adopt my techniques just to understand the environment that I was in, all different backgrounds, cultures, right? It's a global school.
Yep.
They get a lot of students from outside of the United States. So dealing with athletes from all over the world, from New Zealand, Australia, you name it. So just understanding how to adapt my skill sets to the different culture environments there, I think was a challenge, and it's a really great thing. So for me, it was just really impressed upon me that truly that everybody learns in a different way. I always knew that, but it really reinforced that point. So I had to really understand how the teams learn, how they like to learn, and then I had to adapt my styles to keep them engaged. So that was probably the biggest transition that I had to make going to Wagner.
Okay.
But it's been great so far.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. So, Trot, back to you now. So, you were talking earlier about breathing and, how it can, like practicing and living for that moment and just being as prepared as possible in terms of being relaxed and being in the right mental state. But just overall, like in your experience with the guys you've worked with, what separates an elite college performer from somebody who's more average or a bench player in terms of, how they prepare mentally and the way that they approach a game or a practice or an at bat or anything like that?
That's a good question. It's I guess the good answer would be man, because I'm thinking of a couple of ways that you can answer this. One thing is that all elite athletes are, for the most part, very, very confident in their abilities. So it has to do with confidence for one. Preparation, I'm gonna be quite honest with you. It's depending on each athlete, like I'm watching the Last Ride or the Last Dance with Michael Jordan, and his preparation was incredible, and so was Kobe's. But I'm sure that there were guys in the NBA or any sport that have, a piss poor work ethic and somehow just still do well. It's just how they perceive the game. It's just, it works for them. So preparation.
Kind of like Shaq, because like when Shaq and Kobe were together, like they would always talk about Shaq maybe like slack off in practice, and Kobe's always like trying to like knock somebody's teeth out. So you're right. There's like a whole bunch of different perspectives.
But there's a Goldilocks effect. But a lot of it's confidence. If you don't have confidence in your ability, like pure organic confidence, and that's why I kind of like to revert to a lot of Buddhist teachings of the idea of self, because it's the idea of self. We create this ego, and I mean, think about it. Like we all wear things because we idolize other people, right? So how we do certain wristbands, how we do our batting stance, it stems from an early age, super early. And let's think of all the habits that we go into, like wearing a hat backwards or wearing a, you know what I mean? It's just like the little things that we find that like it's for us. It's really just a collective pieces of everybody else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but if you can get to the point of pure organic confidence where like you accept who you are, you embrace who you are, you manifest who you are, if you can get to that point without the concerns of others, like really caring about what you think of them and how they perceive you, I would say that's a big thing that a lot of elite athletes are. They're all just trying to be the best possible versions of themselves. They're not trying to be somebody else. One of the pitchers from the Indians, he was talking about his minor league route and Clevenger. And he said the biggest thing that his issue was in the minor leagues was he was trying to conform and he was too worried about other people and how he was going to react to, if he came off the mound and kind of boasted his chest a little bit. He was afraid that they might send him down for that, or, he might hear some crap about it from his teammates or his coaches.
Right.
Worried about if his pitch wasn't biting too much. He was just too worried about what other people thought of him. And then the switch finally happened for him. But he was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to try and be out there. I'm just going to do my thing. So you see a guy like Marcus Stroman out there, and he's a good example of that. He fully embraces who he is and what he wants in the mound. So elite athletes, yes, elite athletes are confident. Elite athletes, they have a good understanding of who they are. But the biggest thing, too, is a lot of them – I mean, what's your experience John, with, you've dealt with, Division I athletes, and for guys that, or just any athletes, I want to say just guys, that some of them just do well, and you think that they kind of pull it out of their ass, where they're like,
Yeah.
oh, how is he doing this? We don't see him in the gym. He's a 2.2 GPA student, doesn't really try hard, but he's not a dumb kid. He just doesn't care. And he gets to the field and he does his thing and does well. So what would you say about that with elite athletes? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of going where I was about to, you were going to start a sentence. I was about to interject and you started a sentence in the exact same way I was about to. You said, they kind of know who they are, right? But the way I take it and the way I would describe it to other athletes is, I would add to that is not only do they understand who they are, but they understand where they want to go,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where they want to go. And because I go back to that simple concept of understanding who they are and where they want to go, that's all rooted in self-awareness. So I think, they, to your point, high level of self-confidence, they have a strong vision as to who they are and where they want to go. And, they're willing to do all the little things I find. They understand how to find growth and failure. So they have a growth mindset. They really, truly believe in having a growth mindset. And I just think that, they're open for feedback, want to get better. They understand how to manage things like expectations, right? They understand that because they understand the expectations that other people have really don't matter, because they're driven by themselves and having, who they are, where they want to go. So no one else's expectations are going to be greater or influence them than what they already have of themselves. So they're very much a self-confined unit in that way. And I find that they're able to block out all the noise and really stick to their plan. But also because of all of that, a real trait that I see in elite athletics is the ability to self-teach, right?
Yes.
When you understand who you are, where you want to go, and you build a plan, right? And you can guide yourself through a lot of things, because at the end of the day, as much as a coach, you're a coach, I'm a coach, and as much as we can coach someone like Nico or any other athlete, at the end of the day, they're on the field performing. No one else is.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to have, they have to be grounded in who they are and where they want to go. And if they can do that and build self-awareness, and they can self-teach and be their own self-advocate, it becomes this really like cyclical self-empowering sort of cycle that they can really help propel themselves in good and bad times. So it allows them to perform with what I call 3 C's: confidence, consistency, and composure. Those are elements of an elite athlete.
Yep.
I like it. So last question, and this is for both you guys. So you guys have a lot of insight, clearly. You guys have exemplified, just a little bit of what you guys know. I know you guys talk about this stuff a lot, but going back to when you guys were playing, just any sport or just, in life in general, like, because I know Trot has been relating a lot of what he teaches his athletes, to life in general. If you can go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, whether it's sports or life or maybe like for a job or anything, what's that one piece of advice you would give each other? So Hodson, you can start off.
Me first. I would go back to actually just being able to listen, right? Just really understanding the power of listening, and listening for what I call learning, right? If I were to go back, as opposed to listening to reply, right? Some people just talk. And when you're talking to someone, I see an athlete I'm waiting for, and I'm talking to an athlete, trying to have a conversation, trying to have a dialogue, trying to get, something going on with that athlete. And you can tell they just want to reply. They just want to reply. They just want to reply. And that's sort of like a youthful thing, right? They're just exuberant. They want to learn. But if they can just take a step back, I was kind of like that myself. So if I can go back and tell something to myself, younger version of Coach Hodson, it would be, have that appreciation to listen, to learn, because there's a lot of information out there, and you can get pretty far in life just by listening. Be comfortable in that silence.
Okay. Trot, what you got?
I would have to say the teaching of, I wish I learned at an early age, was the teaching of karma. And you get what you give. I guess like in the early part of high school, that's where your social life kind of gets a little bit better. But those are crucial years, crucial because that's where you start seeing the athletes that they're the ones that aren't really going out as much, or they're really good with their time management. And maybe you hit with them at the end of 8th grade, and then you hit with them again in the fall. So like 6 months, you're like, whoa, that's a different hitter. Like they're hitting the crap out of the baseball. And then you see them again in another 6 months, and now like they're on Division I Raiders as freshmen. That's like the big jump those first couple years, and it's no, I'll do that later, or just always an excuse. It might have been different now than when I was in high school, because you guys have way more resources.
Yeah.
So like, your age group, there should be no excuses. Everything is on YouTube. Everything's on Instagram. And I think just, getting too caught up in the excuses, always trying to have a good excuse as to why, always justifying why I didn't have the chance to get something done, or I didn't do well, or it was really just accountability. And for me, that's knowing that what you put into it is what you're gonna get. If you only stick to your schedule 2 out of the 5 days that you had, you can't expect good results.
Yep. And I think there's like a couple levels to that. Like I feel like what you give in your classes, what you give in the weight room, what you give even just like to your friendships and your family members, like what you give from yourself in all aspects of your life will affect all other kinds of things. And like people don't really realize that. And it affects you as a person, and then it eventually would just trickle down to your entire team, regardless of what sport you play, like guy or girl sport, like it doesn't matter. Like what you give to every part of your life will show itself at some point.
Interconnectivity.
Yeah.
Everything is connected one way or another. It's when I was in high school, I didn't really take care of myself the first 2 years. I went into a really bad eating habits where it got big, and I thought, all right, I need to be really thin. So then you stop eating, which isn't healthy. And then you're like, all right, me just being uneducated, didn't really do my homework. All right, I want to get as big as possible. And then when I got big as possible, people were like, oh, dude, you got to hop on bands. Like, I don't need bands. I was too confident.
Yeah.
Or I think it was more, I was too hyper masculine to think that I had to do bands. But that was before bands kind of blew up. Just now everybody does bands. And because I got injured, and that's how it led me down my career path. But that's all connected. And at first I blame my high school coach, but years down the road when I look at it, I'm like, oh, that was 100% my fault. I could have spoke up. I could have prepared better. Just you start seeing it, but that's that's a special ability, to be able, instead of looking at things for what they really were years down the road, can you have that ability to do that in that moment, look at it clearly.
Yep.
So that actually goes back to your first question about breathing. So it all, and self-awareness, it's all connected. It's a circle. Yep. It's a circle.
Absolutely. So that's all I got for you guys today. I really appreciate you guys giving your time and your knowledge and input. I think that was, a really great talk. Like I said at the beginning, you guys are very knowledgeable, and you showed it right here. And it was really awesome having you guys, and I just want to thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Nico.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, guys. Be safe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, signing off.